right, so welcome to Teaching Tip Tuesday. My name is Michelle, aka the Ignited Teacher, here on social media. That will be Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all those popular platforms. And what I do here on Teaching Tip Tuesday is I share teaching tips with math teachers of struggling learners that want to effectively manage their classrooms and to increase their students' um, achievement. That's for those students that are tier 2, tier 3 students, those special top population students that struggle with mathematics. And the way that I help teachers do that is through good math instruction, which is instructional pedagogy, um, classroom management, um, tech integration. I always forget tech integration and response to intervention. And I do all those things. Oh, and project-based learning. And I do all those things, and not at the same time, but at some point in time, that's how I get my students to move. I am the math interventionist at a high school. I provide Algebra 1 support to my students through math intervention. And I share the tips and the things that I learned from working with these population of students with you all on this Teaching Tip Tuesday. So welcome, welcome, welcome. If you're new here, thanks for tuning in with me. If you're catching me on the replay and you couldn't catch me live, thank you for tuning in. And if you're not new and you watch me every Tuesday, thank you for tuning in. And if you have any requests or things that you would like to learn about, you can email me at michelle@theignitedteacher.com. So, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Tonight's topic is really, really near and dear to me because I have taught upper elementary for years before I became a math interventionist at the high school level. So long before that, like I tell my son, many moons ago, I was a fifth grade teacher. And fifth grade is where I spent the majority of my math experience. I'm going into, I done lost track of time. I think this is my 17th year teaching math, somewhere along there. I'm not sure. I think it's the 17th. I'm going into my 17th year of teaching math only to students. If you know me prior to that, I started out teaching first grade and ELA and then switched over in my third year of teaching to math and science. And I moved up to middle school and I've been teaching math ever since. So, place value. Place value is near and dear to me because it is one of the single issues in mathematics that causes a plethora of issues through our, you could call it curriculum alignment, or you can say vertical alignment, either one. But it causes so many problems. When I say problems with addition, subtraction, rounding, decimals, multiplication, division, you name it. All those basic operation skills are based in place value, and they thrive, and kids, when they master and understand place value concepts, they can get these operations. A lot of the teachers are talking about, well, there was a thread, I want to say a couple of days ago, that talked about, instructional strategies. A lot of teachers want to jump in. What can you give me a strategy without really thinking about the curriculum alignment? Will it support the curriculum alignment? And that's one thing that I'm really big on. Can a teacher come behind you and put their instruction for the next grade level on top of that strategy that you're teaching your students? And a lot of times the answer is no. In the article, The 13 Rules That Expire, which was put out by NCTM, for those that do not know, NCTM is the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics. It is our national organization for math. And they talked about 13 rules that expire, and they're just talking about those rules that expire from year to year. And I want to start with this. Good teaching practice exposes misconceptions. They do not hide them. And that's what the 13 rules of the 13 rules that expire, that article is about. It's mainly about teaching for your grade level. We are not supposed to be teaching for our grade level. We're supposed to be teaching for the curriculum and the alignment, because kids, there's life after third grade, there's life after fifth, and there's life after high school. So when we think about teaching strategies, if they're good teaching strategies, they will expose those misconceptions. You can pretty much ask any fifth grade teacher that works in an urban school district, or any school district that works with kids that are below grade level. They will tell you that we spend, especially me when I was in fifth grade, I spent most of my time trying to get buy-in for strategies that I knew worked for fifth grade. And there's no such thing as unteaching. No, 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 no. Because once the kids learn it, that's it. But they have to buy into the concepts in fifth grade to understand that, hey, the strategy that I learned last year doesn't work for fifth grade. And it's sad to say, children should not have to do that. They should not have to go to fifth grade and reprogram themselves and use strategies that actually are going to help them in middle school. We should be teaching for the curriculum alignment. So tonight's topic is about misconceptions for place value and quick fixes. So I have 3 misconceptions that came up in fifth grade constantly. When I say constantly, I mean all of the time. So let's go ahead and get started with misconception number 1. So misconception number 1 is the value of a digit versus the place value. And I know in some grade levels, I'm not even sure which grade level it is. Let me scoot over. They talk about this a lot. The value of a digit versus the place value. The place is how much is what you see. The place value is basically what you see in this picture. But the value of a digit is based on how many of that number is in there. So if you have the number 3 in the tens place, the value of that digit is 30. And kids have the hardest time with that concept. Place value versus the value of the digit, because they think it's synonymously. They actually see it as synonymous. And I know that in first grade, because that's when place value starts, it doesn't start in kinder, because they are teaching them the 10 frame, which gives them the understanding of that base 10. But when you're teaching this, it has to do with, some people will call it regrouping, some people will call it carrying, which we don't use anymore, or in the Common Core curriculum, they call it trading. And I like the word trading. It's non-threatening to a lot of kids that have struggled with math for a long time. And I actually used it in when I was working in Louisiana, because that's where I did most of my Common Core teaching. So in that, when we used trading, the kids was like, oh, I can trade a 10, one group of 10 for 10 ones. And it made it so much easier for the kids that struggle. And you can move them to where they are like, okay, I'm not trading, I'm now regrouping. And that can be a progression and a math intervention and quick fix for students who struggle. You can go back to some non-threatening language and get the kids to understand, okay, the place value is I'm in the ones place. But if I have a digit in there, the value of the ones place is 3. Now, what happens when I move that 3 to the tens place? The place value is 10, but the value of this 3 is how much? And you can use number discs. I really like number discs, but they are not recommended for first graders. I think it's into second grade or third grade, something like that. You would have to look in the Eureka Math. That's where we did the story of units, and that was the open resource open source for Engage New York. That's when I use that. So the first misconception is value of a digit versus place value. The quick fix is take the children back and use some non-threatening language as like trading. So I'm going to trade 3 tens, or you say for 31s, or a group of 10 for 10 ones, and we trade those. And then you can move the kids and change the language to regrouping to help them make the jump. So that's misconception number 1. Misconception number 2. Now, I wrote, this was so long ago because I did a blog post and I took a picture of this poster that I created. 0 is a placeholder versus 0 has no value. Now, I have a problem with a lot of teachers that say, oh, 0 is just a placeholder. And I asked my students when they come to 5th grade, I said, okay, if you go to the bank and the bank says you have $0, is it holding a place? It makes no sense. So for a teacher to say, oh, 0, put your placeholder, it's not a placeholder. It goes back to the value, the place value. If there's 0 in the ones place, that ones place does not have any value. And that's where we are with that. So it's not a placeholder. It has no value. If you have $0 in your bank, that means that your bank account has no value. If you put $3 in the bank, it's the value of your bank account is $3. So when you're talking about 0, 0 shows that that place does not have value. It is not a placeholder. So what happens is when the kids have to move to 5th grade and they're multiplying and dividing decimals, and decimals have zeros. They have zeros in the front and they have zeros in the back. So if you're setting the children up to say, think of 0 as a placeholder, they think that, oh, it's just, I can just throw that 0 away. It's just holding a place. And that's not the case. Those zeros are important in decimals. They're important in whole numbers. What $20 versus $200? So you mean to tell me that 0 in I got a net, in the tens place doesn't mean anything? And that extra 0 in the 100 doesn't mean anything? It means a lot. So it means that you have 200 0 tens and 0 ones. It is not a placeholder. There's no value in those ones places. And that's one of the things that our 5th graders come, and 4th graders a lot of times come with that, oh, I'm just holding, especially with multiplication. When they start 2 by 2 multiplication, it goes out the window, especially when you're shifting the children from the strategies with, what do they call it? I can see it in my head. It'll come to me. I forgot the name of it, but it's the strategy where they are multiplying and you put the whole number with the zeros, because the algorithm, to be honest with you, 2 by 2 and 3 by 2, it just extracts those zeros from the algorithm. That's all it does. And the strategies that they use in 4th grade versus 5th grade in the state of Texas, because the state of Texas, we use strategies, but the goal is to move the kids to the standard algorithm. And those strategies that they use for multiplication, we try to wean them from it, because they should, like a teacher was trying to debate me today, should be able to make the jump from those strategies to the standard algorithm if the students understand the underlying concept, which is place value. If the kids understand the place value, there's no problem. So misconception number 2 is 0 is a placeholder versus the place value does not have any value. The quick fix is to use the trading method as well. So in this picture, you can go do your inverse. So say, for instance, you have 10 ones and you want to show the number 10. It's a double-digit number. So you have 10 ones. You trade it for a group of 10. There's nothing left in that ones place. So that's a 0. And if you use the place value chart to model this concept, your children will understand it. And then you can do the inverse of it. If you go from, you have your group of 10 and you trade it for 10 ones, which we know that's not correct because we don't put double-digit numbers in the ones place. But if a child did that, that's a teachable moment. And these are that's how you fix that 0 is a placeholder versus the place does not have any value, especially with this next one. And we're going to talk about how it supports this strategy for misconception number 3. Now, remember I said in misconception number 2, it said that 0 has no value. In multiplying by a decimal, it does make a difference. And when you talk about, hey, 0 has no value, it makes a difference in multiplying decimals because you have to have that 0 there. And the zeros all over the place. And it makes a difference because it changes the place value. So if you have 5/10, but then you add a 0, or as they say, annex a 0, that says 50 hundredths. It changes the place value. So it has a different connotation. Now, this one is, which is misconception number 3, cross out all the zeros to make them a 10 when subtracting across zeros. This used to be my pet peeve, all-time pet peeve in 5th grade. So say, for instance, you have 2,000 minus 15. My students will go from that ones place, cross out the 0 next to it, make it a 10, then make it a 9, cross out the 0 next to it. And I would sit there in agony because it's an ineffective strategy. Yeah, I understand that the kids, okay, they learn. We're 5th grade now. They don't need that because it's an algorithm. Like I tell my students, an algorithm is just that. It's a series of steps that happen over and over again. Nothing ever changes. And if you know that that 0 is going to become a 9, what's wrong with taking making it 299 and then making a 10? That's how I was taught. And when to see those kids in 5th grade still doing that and the numbers are getting larger, it's an ineffective 0. So what happens when you have 2002 minus 15 or 202 minus 15? The students used to get tripped up on that because, first of all, they were taught that 0 is a placeholder. So sometimes they just throw the 0 out. And then they go with the, oh, I'm going to make 0 a 10. And then they're like, oh, do I make it a 9? And they're confused because the underlying idea of place value has not been taught correctly. And they haven't grasped the idea of place value. So a quick fix for this is to compare two problems. So you have 205 minus 19, and you can do 200 minus 19. And you can have like a number talks discussion about what is the difference between these two problems, and bring some awareness to the children about the steps, or even talk about different strategies that they will use to solve each problem, and then compare and talk about place value and how you don't cross out those zeros. And then you can talk about algorithms. If the 0 is in the middle, it's 20 really. You take that 1 from that 20, you make it 19, but just different strategies. And it helps the kids, especially when they get to 5th grade and beyond, and they start dealing with these larger numbers. They can release the mind from that element, that 2nd grade or 3rd grade strategy when they first were learning that, hey, this 0 becomes a 10 because you're regrouping from the hundreds place. That's where the children have been stuck, and they haven't been able to make the jump to, hey, this is an algorithm. It's not going to change. So that step is unnecessary, but I don't apply that to everything, and there are different ways. So that's how you fix that strategy. So here are some solutions in my store. The link is in the description of this live stream. You can purchase this in my store, Recomposing Numbers. There's some other things in there. When I was teaching 1st grade, I created this for my students, and it helps the kids be fluid with that understanding that 10. So you can get this at fieldgreatminds.com, and you click on the store button. I also have some freebies on there as well. If you're not on my email list, you definitely need to get on my email list. I do a lot of tips, and I've added just here recently what's in my classroom this week. So I share strategies that I'm teaching my students in my classroom this week. And if you're interested in that, you can do it. You can join my email list as well. Some people say, well, you teach high school. Well, I don't. I teach high school, but I'm a math interventionist. So I teach anywhere from 3rd grade to 5th to Algebra 1, because I'm filling gaps. And sometimes it does take me back to 3rd grade. I don't stay there long. I move. And it's just a vertical alignment thing. Like today I was working on, but it took me down to 7th grade. I was working on slope and proportionality, but it took me down to 6th, 7th grade. And I may have to go to 5th grade, so I put that on my plan as well. Multiplicative and additive patterns, because that's where the strand begins for the vertical alignment for slope. But that is all I have for you all for Teaching Tip Tuesday. I hope that you enjoyed this. Don't forget those misconceptions and the quick fixes. If you want to save this, watch it for later, favorite, you can get this recording on YouTube. The Ignited Teacher, that's my YouTube channel name. And it'll be up there because I'm recording there too as well tonight. So hope you enjoyed Teacher Tip Tuesday, and I'll see you next week in my live stream. Bye-bye.